This slideshow is a slideshow of a wildflower hike that Wendy and I took along with our friend Jackie Blurton to Meadow Creek. We drove the vehicle down as far as you could pretty much drive once we got to Meadow Creek, and then we walked upstream along Meadow Creek and up Meadow Creek Valley or canyon, and then eventually bushwhacked up to the CDT trail. But you don't need to go that far to see some of the beautiful flowers that we were experiencing. This, of course, is our little blue grama grass, Bouteloua gracilis, and it just kind of caught my eye when they start to dry up. Sometimes they look like eyelashes, and this one was just sort of like a little twirling sun. This is the Southern Mountain paintbrush. We have about 4 species, I believe, of the what is commonly called the Indian paintbrush. This is more of the upper elevation paintbrush, Castanea nelsonii. Notice that there are floral bracts that are beautiful orange-red at the tops, and then right at the base they're green, which helps us to identify this as the Southern Mountain paintbrush. This is a species of thistle in the genus Cirsium. Not sure exactly which one it is. I'm kind of leaning towards Cirsium arizonicum, which is the Arizona thistle. In any event, it's a beautiful, beautiful thistle. Monotropa hypopetes. This is known as pine sap. This is a very unique little plant. This genus Monotropa, where I used to live in Minnesota, was white. And so this is a beautiful coral color. It's in the Ericaceae family, which is the heath family. So the blueberries are in that family as well. And it's a saprophyte, which means it is gaining its nourishment off of the roots of another plant. It doesn't have chlorophyll, so even though it's a flowering plant, it does not photosynthesize. Grindelia arizonica, the New Mexico gumweed. This is an interesting little plant. If you look down on the bottom right of this slide, you'll see, and it's out of focus, that there's just sort of a shiny, glistening surface where the disc flowers used to be. And that, if you touch that, it's sort of gummy and sticky, hence the name. It's an interesting little plant. I'm not sure which species of beetle we have here, but kind of blends right in. This is one of the Gromwells, the green Gromwell, Lithospermum viridae. This is a small one. It's kind of a close-up, but the flowers are actually quite small, less than, I would say, maybe a centimeter, maybe a little longer. There is another Gromwell that has much longer tube-like, trumpet-like flowers, but this is the green Gromwell. It's actually quite common. This time of year, this mustard, Hesperidanthus linearifolius, or the slim leaf plains mustard. You notice the slim leaves here. And notice the petals. The mustards generally have petals in a group of 4, kind of like a cross. The old family name for the mustards, now Brassicaceae, used to be cruciferae, like a crucifix, like a cross. So it's very helpful to identify many of the mustards. The petals are sort of like tennis racket shaped, so that's kind of an interesting thing. Very common along the trail, but actually quite beautiful when you get down and take a close look at. Enothera hexandra, or harlequin bush. This is one of the plants who many of the folks that we hike with will call simply agara. and Gaura, and that's the old genus. The new genus is Enothera, and this is, if you notice this beautiful pink little flower. Now this is going to develop along the stem, and there'll be other ones below it and other ones above it. But notice the stigma. The stigma is down. It's that long structure with that long reddish style. Okay, so we have the style coming down that's reddish, and then it's a 4-part stigma. That's where the pollen would attach and to fertilize the eggs. But that helps us to identify it, that stigma with that red style, as harlequin bush. Very small, very beautiful. Enothera elata. This is the hooker's evening primrose, very common. But what's fun about this is that they often, of course, will bloom in the evening or very early morning, and then as the day goes on, those blossoms will start to deteriorate and turn this beautiful orange color. So you get a whole palette of different colors throughout the day with this. Very common, and once again, a real beauty this time of year. These little wood sorrels, oxalis, this one's Metcalfii, are very, very common and a little bit upper elevation. And this is the Alpine wood sorrel. There is also another oxalis that's common, and that's small, but its leaves are very different. And the leaves look like little umbrellas. Oxalis dodecandra or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, so this is sort of the shamrocky looking wood sorrel. The leaves of this often have sort of an acetic acid or a kind of has a sort of a tingy, maybe even lemony taste to those leaves. Hypomopsis aggregate or skyrocket. These are just absolutely fantastic. You can see how they get their name, skyrocket. You can see that some of these that have already, the flowers are spent, have these long, tubular, the style with the little light-colored stigma at the end. You can see sticking out. This is in the phlox family, Polemoniaceae. Very common this time of year. And another one that, if you see it from a distance, you might be confused. This is the Penstemon barbatus and the barbed penstemon or scarlet penstemon. Sometimes these are called beard tongues, because of a specialized structure, not a stamen, but a specialized structure that looks like a little bearded tongue, if you will. Very, very common right now, but it really brightens up the forest. Lotus wrightii, this name has changed, and I don't know the new scientific name, but this is the way it's reported in Russ Kleinman's Heliflora, which will be changing. This is the red and yellow pea. Once again, here's that color scheme, again, that palette of flowers that might start one color and then throughout the day or as they age become different colors. So you see this beautiful little pea plant, and it's just sort of a multicolored plant. Quite striking. Of course, the big prize for many people is the basket flower. This is Rockroth's basket flower, Pectocephalus rothrockii. And just very large, it's probably 4 or 5 inches, diameter. And they were very, very abundant right along the creek and in some little springs and seeps along the trail. And that's a real favorite. You can see some pollinators tucked down inside. The New Mexico elder, Sambucus caerulea, nice and moist, good year for them down, up in the higher elevations where we were, and the phainopeplas simply love these. At our house in Silver City, lower elevation than Meadow Creek, we have the same species, but it's been so dry that a lot of the leaves are starting to dry up, and the berries are just not as full and plentiful as we see here in this moist area along Meadow Creek. This is an interesting little plant. Wendy identified it as a little succulent, and we said, well, maybe it's a sedum, and by gosh, Sedum stelliforme, so stellar, like star, so you can see star-like flowers, Huachuca mountain stone crop, very small, right along the forest floor, but a very striking little forest cover. Thistleine laciniata, or Indian pink. This is in the pink family, the Caryophyllaceae, and just a striking flower. Notice how the petals are deeply cleft, and sometimes confused from a distance with perhaps the skyrocket, which has sort of a similar color, but once you get up close you can see how these petals are divided. Gorgeous little plant, and quite common in the forest right now. Symphoricarpos rotundifolius. So you can see the leaves are roundish. The common name, Roundleaf Snowbearing, of course, comes from these fruits that are snowy white that you see here. This plant has opposite leaves, and it gets to be a small bush, but very attractive, and the flowers are beautiful. But we're much too late for that, but we're lucky enough to have fruits. I was down on the ground, on my side, getting as close as I could to this little Pinos altos string bean. Just a small little pea. You can see that trifoliate compound leaf, Phaseolus parvulus, and it's just a stunning little flower. But once again, it's one of those things you got to get down on the ground, take a look, even get your hand lens out on that one. And the last plant that we have here is the western wallflower, Erysimum capitatum. This is an interesting flower because when you're at the lower elevation, let's say where you park at Meadow Creek, those flowers, very similar, obviously, but they're yellow. But as you go up in elevation, there is a color change that you will notice. So this was sort of almost as high as we got along Meadow Creek before we climbed up and out to the CDT trail. And you can see how beautiful orange these petals are. So you can see there are 4 petals. What family is that? Okay, that's the mustard family, the Brassicaceae. Another, remember that little diagnostic. Okay, well, get out there and enjoy the plants along Meadow Creek or anywhere else that's moist. It's been very, very dry this quote-unquote monsoon season, but we heard that they had in some places 4 or 5 inches of rain when we down here have had very little. So there's some neat things happening a little higher up. So get out and enjoy.